All right, guys, welcome back to the 2015 Salt Lake City Regional Championships. We are here now in the finals between starmetroid and Alberto CaliSweeper. Off-screen teams, Alberto going to be running Landers, Therian, Ferrothorn, Sylveon, Charizard, Conkeldurr, and Salamence. On screen, you can clearly see Max running the Salamence, Aegislash, Ludicolo, Politoed, Thundurus Incarnate, and Terrakion.
Yeah, a team we've seen a lot of in the last couple of weeks. Again, he might have trouble with his rain mode. If you look at Alberto's team, the Ferrothorn's going to give it trouble. Charizard there to disrupt the rain. We didn't see any of the rain mode last match. We didn't see much of the rain when we watched the finals last week. It could also be very useful, though. If you look at it as countering the sun instead of the sun countering you, it's just glass half full, right? The Ferrothorn is going to be an issue. If you start looking at Max's team, it's like the Terrakion is going to be good against it. The Aegislash and the Salamence are pretty decent against it, but other than that, it's going to have trouble.
Right, and Alberto has faced this team before. He played Mark Crawdon's last night in the Premier Challenge in the top 8, and I don't think there's been any edits made to the team at all. So Alberto knows what starmetroid's running.
I don't think there's been any edits to either team.
I talked to Mark. He said there was one adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah. So we see the Sylveon and the Charizard leads for Alberto. Gonna go with Salamence and Aegislash on Max's side.
Obviously, a huge advantage for Alberto from this lead. I mean, Sylveon's threatening Salamence, Charizard's threatening Aegislash. Neither one can really afford to stay on the field unless that Salamence thinks it can one-hit KO Sylveon or is willing to trade Charizard for Salamence. That's about the only reason Salamence can stay on the field. This switch might be so painful that Salamence decides to go for one of those two things. But yeah, this is a huge instant advantage for Alberto.
And we see Salamence going to go Mega right here. It is going to Mega before Charizard. Could possibly be a speed tie. Not exactly sure here. And is Charizard going to go Mega too? Charizard does go Mega. Going to bring out the Drought. So those base 100s, that's a killer speed tier to be in. Not sure if Salamence is going to move first or if Charizard's going to move first here, depending on how they're trained and how they're bred.
Yeah, no switches already, so we know something's big's going to happen or a lot of protects.
You see Salamence go for the Protect here. Is Charizard just going to go for the Overheat? Aegislash is going to go for the King Shield right here, double protect. So now Salamence is going to outspeed the Charizard for sure.
Advantage here. Then you can take that trade turn too if that's really what you're after, which it probably has to be because I don't know what comes into to Sun Boosted Heat Wave plus Hyper Voice for Max other than Politoed, and we talked about how that might not be a very useful thing for him to bring.
Oh, look at Salamence Glide. You see that little dip it made?
That's nice. It's really good when you can get this much of an advantage just from Team Preview. You don't have to play into it. You don't have to get field support to get to it. You just lead it, and there it is. Big advantage for you. I expect Max at the worst, or Alberto at the worst, to play this into a trade he's happy with.
And, a double edge into the Charizard slot wouldn't be too bad, depending on how Charizard is trained as well. That's going to make a difference as to whether Charizard, but it's just going to switch out instead.
Yeah, and so
goes straight to the Ferrothorn.
And we know that the Salamence isn't protecting, so it's probably going to take a Hyper Voice.
Sylveon protects, though. So it's not the usual choice spec skill for Sylveon that we see all the time. Aegislash is going to go ahead and go into Blade form right here. Where is it going to go? Aegislash is going to go for the Shadow Sneak into the Sylveon Protect. Now Salamence goes to double into Sylveon Protect.
Wow, so that Protect ended up being totally right. Charizard, I'm sure now looking back, would have rather had a Heat Wave, but I think Shadow Sneak plus Double Edge probably does pick up that KO on Sylveon, and would have been a great turn for Max that really burnt off that advantage. Surprised Alberto played that second turn so defensively. I thought he was in a good enough position trying a Heat Wave or trying a Hyper Voice.
Maybe he was a little bit worried about the wide guard.
The wide guard or the play that Max had two kind of plays out of it to force trades more than
Flash Cannon Sylveon and Double Edge Charizard, right?
Well, I was going to say the Shadow Sneak Double Edge that he did, or the Double Edge Charizard Flash Cannon. Either way kind of forces a trade more than it gives it a distinct advantage to Alberto, and so I guess he decided to kind of play out of that and try to not accept a trade and go for something better.
Right, we do see Landers Therian going to come in for Alberto's side, going to go for the Intimidate on the Mega Salamence. Aegislash Content to continue to Shadow Sneak here, going to hit that Landers for a little bit of chip damage. Not too much damage. The Intimidate did matter there, as Salamence goes for a double edge onto the Landers Therian slot as well. Not going to be able to pick up the knockout right there, but does a good amount of damage back to itself for recoil. As Ferrothorn's going to go ahead and start setting up his Leech Seed on the Aegislash. Trying to protect the King Shield there, probably.
Probably. Though I don't think the King Shield wouldn't have meant much. Max was aiming attacks that would have KO'd Sylveon. Aegislash resists anything Ferrothorn's going to do except like the unlikely Bulldoze. So I think it was a pretty safe turn to not King Shield, but I also think getting Leech Seed is pretty useful. Depending on what the rest of Ferrothorn's moveset is, it might have been the most useful thing it could do. All that damage on Landorus I think is going to be really helpful. We'll limit how many Intimidates it can get in the rest of this game, and how much of a sponge it can be for things aimed at Sylveon and Charizard. Meanwhile, Ferrothorn's in a good spot now. It's got Leech Seed up. It isn't really threatened too much by this -1 Salamence and the Aegislash. It'll stick around for a while.
Right, and there's really no fire moves out for Max at all. Gonna be hard to break through this Ferrothorn here. King's Shield from Aegislash, gonna try to bait any sort of physical attack towards that Aegislash slot. Landorus gonna go for the rock slide here, gonna do a good amount of damage to that Salamence, bring it down all the way to about 40%. Salamence flinches and cannot move as Ferrothorn goes for the power into the King Shield, so that's gonna drop his attack by 2 stages.
Yeah, I think there was probably a Hyper Voice coming on the flinch from Salamence that would have KO'd Landorus and done a chunk to Ferrothorn.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good move right there.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you talk about there's no fire moves in the field. There's a long history of Salamence having a fire move.
Yeah, Salamence used to run a lot of Fire Blast.
This no fire move for Salamence is a new thing, and Ferrothorn being safely ending against Salamence is not something we're used to seeing, really. But yeah, now at -2 attack, Ferrothorn's really relying on the Leech Seed to do much. He can still try to get off Power Webs for chunks of damage, but it's all going to be very small.
Aegislash gonna go retreat, wants to reset the Leech Seed damage that's going to take, and goes straight to the Ludicolo. That's going to provide some fake out support. That's going to be nice and nifty for...
Yeah, but it might take a Power Whip. Not -2, it won't be as big of a deal, but still we'll take a chunk of damage from a Rock Slide and a Power Whip.
Right, the Rock Slide does connect with the Ludicolo. Going to do a decent amount of damage, I'd say about 25%, and the Power Whip connects at -2. How much damage is going to do the Ludicolo? Bring it down to about 50% as the sunlight fades.
I think Power Whip is my favorite animation.
Really, Power Whip?
Yeah, I really like it. So yeah, I think Fake Out on Landorus to stop that Scarf Rock Slide, and now Hyper Voice. You're going to give up another Power Whip to Ludicolo, or maybe a Leech Seed on Salamence, but it's likely to do pretty well for you. It may force a switch on this. This Fake Out's probably forcing a switch on Landorus, so you could try to do something else with Ludicolo, since if you don't think you need the Fake Out because it's switching anyway. But you risk a lot by allowing a Rock Slide to hit Salamence and Ludicolo, and might give up 2 knockouts.
And we do see Landorus switch out, gonna save that Intimidate for later on. Goes back into Sylveon now, probably trying to take the Fake Out and the Hyper Voice incoming. Sylveon goes for a Fake Out. Actually, I don't think Alberto knows that Salamence has Hyper Voice. Now it's gonna go for the Hyper Voice here and do a little bit of chip damage to both Pokemon, as Ferrothorn is gonna go ahead and go for the Gyro Ball, targeting down that Salamence. That does not knock out the Salamence.
Yeah, you can see how important that one King Shield drop was. The Ludicolo would be much closer to being knocked out. Salamence probably would be knocked out if King Shield drop hadn't happened.
Absolutely. So we see that King Shield paying off a couple turns ago. Right now, Salamence can fire off another Hyper Voice if it really wants to, but I think it needs to start going on a bit more of the offensive side with the physical side.
Yeah.
Or reset its...
I think they could go after Sylveon. Yeah, this is a turn. I don't know if Sylveon's protecting, but something like a Scald and a Double Edge probably still picks up the KO. He'll lose Salamence in the process, but Salamence in red health anyway are the best you're going to get for it as a trade.
And we see Salamence go for the Double Edge here. Going to target down that Charizard. Oh, that's going to do a decent amount of damage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess Max, knowing the next Double Edge KO'd him anyway, he was okay with hitting into Iron Barbs, knowing that the Ferrothorn was going to be a very difficult thing for him to KO.
Ludicolo goes for the Ice Beam here, going to hit the Charizard for a little bit of damage, as Sylveon is going to go for the Hyper Voice, and that does not knock out Ludicolo. Ludicolo hangs on, so Ludicolo will hang on with a sliver of health right now.
Yeah, so that Double Edge and Ice Beam were definitely meant for Ferrothorn, but they do pretty good damage to Charizard anyway. And now Rain's up.
That's actually really good for Max.
Great timing for the Rain, but of course, Landorus could come right back in the Charizard spot, but if you aim a water move there, you're going to get something good. Ferrothorn could come in, of course, that's worse, but you might get a Scald on it. Or you can just go after the Sylveon twice and get that knockout. A lot of options for Max to try to use this. This may be the best turn of Rain he gets. If he loses, if Charizard is able to come back in,
right,
reset
and Charizard does switch out, goes to Ferrothorn. If he double up in that Sylveon, Sylveon could easily just protect too.
Yeah.
Sylveon does go for the protect.
So yeah, I hope. A Scald Burn on Ferrothorns would be a good thing to hope for here.
And we see Ludicolo go for the Giga Drain onto the Sylveon slot. Politoed's going to go for the Scald into the Sylveon slot as well. Unfortunate for Max right there, but good switch right there from Alberto.
Yeah, so now Now anything trying to double target a Sylveon will risk a Power Whip that kills Politoed and ends your weather control. I'm not sure if you can risk that, but at the same time, if you don't double up on the Sylveon, Hyper Voice plus will hit Ludicolo and KO it, and Hyper Voice and Power Whip will hit whatever you switch into the Politoed slot.
And Sylveon going to go ahead and switch here. Is it going to be back to Charizard? It is going to be back to Charizard to reduce the amount of damage that the water type attacks are going to do here.
So if Politoed had switched here, and that had been a Scald to the Sylveon, would have been a really big turn for Max. It's not a Scald. Politoed doesn't switch. If Power Whip comes out this turn, you're just going to trade the Charizard for the Politoed, but Sun's the weather that'll be on the field.
Politoed does go for the Scald on the Charizard. Definitely try and double up into that Sylveon slot right there. Now, Ferrothorn goes for the Power Whip, does connect, targets that Politoed. That should be a knocked out Politoed, I think.
Yep.
Does pick up the knockout on Politoed, so it's going to be operating as Sun. That's going to be unfortunate.
So yeah, Alberto took the trade. Max trying to get that Giga Drain recovery, but Scald would have actually picked up the knockout on Charizard, at least with that other Scald on Ferrothorn.
Right.
Ludicolo is at low enough health now. You're not going to survive anything anyway. I think just going for Scald would have been probably preferable there.
And we see Landorus come in, and Aegislash, Max's last Pokemon, going to come in. I think his back's against the wall.
Yeah, no. I think Game 1's probably going for Alberto here. This Scarf Landorus is going to go down to Shadow Sneak, probably. And then Ludicolo can Scald Ferrothorn, hope for a burn. And then if it's burnt, maybe Aegislash can win this game.
Actually, I don't know. I don't think the Shadow Sneak will actually pick up a knockout here.
You don't think so?
At -1, it's not going to be able to, I think. Last time we saw it do about 20 or 30 damage. I don't think it's going to pick up a knockout here.
That was against the bulkier Landorus from last game.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I forgot.
I think so. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, gets the knockout.
Might have been at -2 for all I knew, too. Goes for a Scald, does not pick up a burn. Ferrothorn's going to go for Leech Seed on the Aegislash.
And that's exactly what Alberto needed to do. The Leech Seed will let him kind of slowly ice this game. He could have taken the Power Whip knockout on Ludicolo, but that maybe opened things up for Aegislash to do more. Now that it's Leech Seeded, this game is just on a timer. And it's also on a real timer.
Ferrothorn is one of those Pokemon that just tries to set up, find those situations where it can come in and set up, Leech Seeds everywhere to try to stall it out. I wonder Aegislash can knock out Sylveon from here, but Ludicolo has nothing to hit that Ferrothorn, right? So Ludicolo does get some health back from the Giga Drain on Sylveon. As Sylveon goes for the Hidden Power, that's going to outspeed the Aegislash and most likely pick up a knockout on Aegislash right there. It does pick up a knockout, and it's going to be Ferrothorn versus Ludicolo. Ferrothorn should be able to pick up a knockout here.
Also, I don't think Ludicolo, this ends the game.
Yeah. Does end the game, and that means that Alberto is going to go to 1, take the lead in the series.
Yeah, up 1-0. So, looking at that game, I actually don't know that Max made too many mistakes. I think the Ferrothorn and Charizard is really hard for him to combat. I would have maybe liked to see Terrakion as a way to answer both of them, and he didn't bring it.
Terrakion and Charizard? Yeah, I agree. The only thing really stopping Max from bringing Terrakion is that Landorus and...
But I think it's something he has to deal with, because Ferrothorn and Charizard are clearly the two biggest problems for him. Sylveon is an issue too, and it's another thing that Terrakion does badly against. But he's going to have too much of a difficult time KOing both of those Pokemon without Terrakion.
Back to team preview right now. You guys can see the sprites on screen, but I'm going to read it out. Landorus, Ferrothorn, Sylveon, Charizard, Conkeldurr, and Salamence for Alberto, CaliSweeper. starmetroid going to be running Salamence, Aegislash, Ludicolo, Politoed, Thundurus Incarnate, and Terrakion. Like you said, I'd like to see Terrakion. That deals with Charizard, that deals with Ferrothorn a bit better.
Yeah, a bit
better. Keyword there.
Some big close combats, but once he gets intimidated, those aren't as big of a deal. I don't know that Alberto really needs to make that many changes. Salamence and Conkeldurr, what he chose not to bring. Salamence, there's really no reason to bring it. Charizard's going to be more helpful against the rain. Conkeldurr, you could see reasons, helping threatening the Mach Punch on Terrakion maybe is the biggest one, but I think he chose the right 4 and will stick with them. He could change up the order, but probably not the Pokemon brought.
So Sylveon and Charizard, same leads coming out from Alberto, and Politoed and Aegislash come out for Max's side. So unfortunate that the Drizzle comes first.
Yeah, that Scarf Politoed outspeeding Charizard here in the Weather War, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway because of the the Mega Evolution is what actually brings the sun, and so it won't be until during this turn that Drought happens. Does give Politoed a chance to switch out, maybe, as a possible Solar Beam, or, also a Fire move for Aegis Slash is totally possible. But, in a similar position, we saw these two come out and threaten Fire plus Fairy, that really potent offensive combination. We've seen it several times today. Heatran plus Gardevoir, Sylveon plus Charizard. Some way to threaten Fire and Fairy at the same time is really powerful.
Sylveon, again, going to switch out, go straight to Ferrothorn, the MVP of this battle right now, really. Charizard going to go ahead and protect itself this turn. Did not want to Mega Evolve there, and that's the smart move right there. Does not want to waste one turn of Sun. As Politoed does get the Scald off, does not pick up the burn. Aegis Slash going to go ahead and go Mega here. Not Mega, go into Blade form. And goes straight for the Flash Cannon into the Ferrothorn. So Ferrothorn tanking both those attacks.
Yeah, but doing a pretty good chunk, actually. Max won't be too unhappy with that, knowing how difficult Ferrothorn is to KO.
Right.
Yeah, now Charizard has a chance to... It maybe expected Politoed to leave the field that turn, and so didn't need to Sun until maybe Politoed came back into the field. Other than that, I don't see much reason to not just bring the Sun. It helps you threaten so much, takes the weather away from Max, forces Politoed out. Just a useful thing to have. Yeah, but the Ferrothorn probably is in something like Shadow Ball Scald range, Shadow Ball something from the Salamence range.
And we do see Salamence come in, go for an Intimidate onto the Ferrothorn here. Max also going to just go for a double switch. Smart play. Goes into Ludicolo for that Aegis Slash slot. And Charizard finally going to go Mega, going to bring the Sunlight. Most likely going to target down that Ludicolo this turn.
Yeah, Ludicolo's going to take a big chunk from either Heat Wave or an Overheat here. If a Power Whip also comes out towards Ludicolo, it could go down really quickly.
And we do see the Heat Wave going to do some spread damage here to
wow,
Ludicolo
huge
and
chunk Salamence.
And Ferrothorn's content with just setting up a lead seat against that Politoed slot. Salamence right now going to be under 50%.
Yeah, it was probably a naive Salamence, knowing that it's mixed, has a special defense lowering nature. We can see how that does affect these damage amounts. Heat Wave damage is more than you'd expect to see on Salamence.
Yeah, Ludicolo does provide fake out support right now. Salamence can go Mega and go straight for a double edge if it wants to.
Yeah, but
Charizard slot.
Salamence is half knocked out now, and all that useful damage on Ferrothorn is gone. Or he's mostly gone from the Leech Seed. This is a really good position for Alberto. Especially if he can intimidate the Charizard this turn in the Ferrothorn slot, so that he's more safe from a possible double edge. Yeah, and keep threatening this Ludicolo, even if it has fake out.
Charizard gonna retreat now. Does not want to stay in. Gonna send in Sylveon, possibly to save the Sun for later with that Politoed in back. Salamence is going to go ahead and go Mega. There is no reason to not Mega. I mean, the only physical attacker on Alberto's side is going to be Ferrothorn, and possibly that Landorus does get off a full power double edge onto the Ferrothorn slot, does a good amount of damage.
Ice Beam might finish that off.
Yeah, but the double edge recoil and the Iron Barbs is okay, barely hangs on. Ludicolo goes for the Ice Beam, targeting down that Ludicolo or that Ferrothorn slot. Is it going to be enough to pick up the knockout? Does pick up the knockout.
Yeah, I think that's a great turn for Max. Ferrothorn's a huge issue. He got rid of it. At the cost of a lot of Salamance's health and recoil, but totally worth it. Now Sylveon's a big issue though, and -1 Salamence won't be able to deal with it as well.
Positions right now for Max to get out of here. I mean, Salamence is kind of dead weight, right?
I don't think so.
I mean, right now in this situation.
No, I would switch it though. I think it's a very useful big bomb in double edge, waiting to happen later in this game.
Edge, yeah.
Yeah, just it's the fastest thing left in this game other than that Landorus, or Ludicolo if Rain comes back. And so I think saving it and using it to put a bunch of damage somewhere where it's necessary is really good.
Most likely the Politoed. Going to go for the Aegis Slash here. Going to be able to tank the Hyper Voice and a possible Rock Slide.
Yeah.
Landorus goes for the U-turn here. Going to target down that Ludicolo slot, pick up some knockout right there, and I think that's an unfortunate move for Max right there. I think Politoed was key to victory. Or Ludicolo was key to victory.
Yeah, I agree. And U-turn was the really easy move there. It's kind of hard to mess it up. Ludicolo doesn't have Protect. Either it's going to be a switch, and then you switch based on the switch, or you knock out Ludicolo and then switch. I'm not really sure why Max let that happen.
Okay, I don't mind this position right now. I mean, he can easily bring in Politoed.
Yep.
Right? He can easily bring in Politoed. That's the Scarf Politoed. That's going to outspeed the Charizard.
And Landorus can't come into that slot either.
Right.
And this live forward flash cannon, I don't know exactly how much it'll do to Sylveon, but it's going to be a big chunk.
I think it will pick up the knockout.
You think so?
I think it will.
But yeah, I think Alberto actually needs to prioritize keeping Landorus alive to keep that Salamence from blowing up one of these two before the end of the game. And so I don't know that he can really afford a switch here. Maybe a Protect and a Hyper Voice, but even that only delays the problem. This is a really tough spot. This has been a place where Max actually may have benefited from Ludicolo going out because it gave Politoed a free chance to come in.
Right. Again, we're going back to that thing where we're saying Pokemon getting knocked out might not be the worst thing.
Well, and especially when you look at if Politoed had switched in there, the U-turn would have hit it, then Charizard would have come in, it would have been sunny right now.
Right, Politoed does get the Scald off in the rain. Is it going to be enough to knock out the Charizard? Oh, Charizard hangs on with 15 hit points. Charizard goes for the Heat Wave here. Aegislash in shield form takes a good amount of damage right there. Critical hit on the Politoed, but of course that didn't matter too much. Sylveon goes for the hidden power. Is this going to be enough to knock out?
Is it fire or ground?
Aegislash. It's probably ground to hit Heat Rans as well. Aegislash hangs on. Aegislash goes into blade form. I know that is Life Orb. Depending on how this Sylveon's trained, is it going to be enough to knock out this Sylveon with a Flash Cannon? Oh, hangs on as well.
And that's huge, because if that had been a knockout, Charizard would have been stuck on the field.
Shadow Sneak.
Yeah, but this allows Charizard to still switch. If
Right.
Sylveon had been knocked out, Charizard would have been stuck on the field, would have been raining for the rest of the game. A Scarf Politoed in rain against Landorus and Charizard would have been a great position. Now Charizard can reset the weather. I think Max needs to preemptively get his Politoed out of there and try to get a knockout with Shadow Sneak in one of these two spots so that he can eventually have that position that we were talking about.
Right, absolutely.
I know it seems crazy that your Politoed's here sitting able to outspeed and KO any of their two Pokemon or do a big chunk on the switch to something, but it's game winning to have it left if you can.
Politoed is definitely the key to victory because in back is going to be that Salamence that's already heavily damaged.
Right, and so I think switch to that Salamence now. Switch to that Salamence, Shadow Sneak the Sylveon.
Sylveon goes for the tech here. Politoed decides to stay in. Maybe
Charizard
stayed next turn. Aegislash goes for Shadow Sneak. Targets down the Charizard. Oh, that's so close.
I'm really surprised that Charizard stayed in. I thought Alberto would want to reset the weather, but I don't think he felt he could afford to switch into a possible Scald.
Right. So now it's going to be Politoed. Oh, man. Is Politoed in the rain, boosted Scald? That should be enough to knock out this Landorus.
But first you've got to deal with the Sylveon. So the Landorus is the fastest thing. It's going to Rock Slide. It's going to KO Salamence if it protects. If Politoed can KO the Sylveon.
Well, no. See, if Salamance's choice, it's going to have to choose. What's going to target.
No, I think it will Rock Slide, and so you need to keep. You need to KO Sylveon. It's the bigger damage threat.
Sylveon's going to go for the helping hand here. Salamance's going to go ahead and protect itself this turn. What is Alberto going to do with that?
It's got to be Rock Slide.
Goes for the superpower. Targets down the Politoed here. Is it going to be enough to pick up the knockout? Politoed picks. Oh, gets knocked out.
Wow.
So that is unfortunate right there for Max. That was his out, and Alberto just prevented it from happening.
Yeah, totally unexpected. I didn't think that would be enough to KO it, but that's tournament winning right there.
And Sylveon goes again for the helping hand. Going to target down that Landorus Therian. Going to go for the superpower here. Is it going to be enough? Clearly, it's going to be enough to knock out the Salamence. And you have your new.
Yeah, I love that he didn't rely on Rock Slide. He could have taken a knockout on Salamence and a good flinch chance to win the game. Didn't. Just went straight after the Politoed and won.
Right. Congratulations to Alberto. He is your new Mountain Regional Champion.
Mountain West Regional